Hello once again, everybody. I have the opportunity now to visit with Brandon Kern. And Brandon, with the Ohio Farm Bureau Federation, we're going to be talking a little bit about energy. I hesitate to say his title because I can't remember. You know, it's one of those real long ones, but it involves development of energy possibilities on the farm and what farmers need to be aware of. Let's first talk about wind energy. There's a lot of windmills going on. Of course, certain parts of the state have had windmills for a while now. I know in the Van Wert County area, several along the highways and in other areas as well. And you see a few windmills, just maybe 3 or 4 at a time, and then maybe more. What's the real kind of policy that Farm Bureau is looking at to help protect the farmer?
Well, I think it ranges from everything from the public policy being debated at the State House from time to time in terms of where and how you go about siting those windmills to the really tangible issue of what are things you should think of as a landowner that should be included in any type of lease agreement that you are going to come to with a wind energy company who wants to place a windmill on your property. So today in the delegate session we're talking about everything from should we incentivize through tax breaks and things like and tools like that the development of wind energy, all the way down to, again, that really practical, here as a landowner, here's some things you need to think about if those companies come knocking on your door and wanting to place those types of facilities on your property.
Of course, we see the windmill up in the air, but there's a wide area of land that it needs to provide that structure to keep it standing.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that gets debated, particularly with the state legislature a lot, is what's the appropriate area that you need? What are the appropriate setbacks? Those are all issues that our members here at Farm Bureau have been engaged with for a long time, and we continue to do that right now at the state level. So there's even as recently as this legislative session that's going on right now, been a topic of conversation with lawmakers down on Capitol Square.
Well, from a flip side of some of that, people that I know that are on farms where those windmills are not placed, those windmills may be placed within viewing of that farm. And sometimes, when you sit out on a nice summer night and you see in the distance some of those windmills, it's not as pleasant as seeing the sunset or something like that.
There's trade-offs with all kinds of energy development, right? And I guess that's why what we're doing here today is so important, because our members are literally having those conversations with each other. Sharing those different perspectives is something that happens on this delegate floor today, which is great.
Well, Brandon, you mentioned it before we started talking here about solar energy, and in the southern part of the states, that is a kind of energy that farmers need to be aware of.
Yeah, who would have thought, right? In the state of Ohio, that you have potential for larger and larger scale solar development taking place, particularly in the southern part of the state. We're starting to see more and more solar companies who are looking for landowners that are willing to lease land for the development of larger scale solar energy, and that's a really interesting thing. At the same time, again, the same considerations you have with wind development. As a landowner, there are certain things that you need to, certain questions that you need to ask, certain things you need to be aware of when these companies are coming to you and asking to develop that type of energy process on your land.
I waited until the end to mention, I guess, maybe the kind of energy that most everybody is aware of oil and gas and the pipelines that is needed to take that product away for it to be used for energy. That's something that farmers, I think, know they need to, maybe have legal representation or at least know what the ramifications are of allowing that to go through their land.
Yeah, it's critical because these pipelines are crisscrossing the state now, everywhere from clear up in the northeastern part of the state where you think about a lot of oil development goes on. But when you're talking about pipelines and moving that product to places to be able to hit the market, there's a pipeline development going right down through south central Ohio, through Hocking County and Vinton County and points, south of there. Not a place where you immediately think about a lot of oil and development going on, but those landowners have a whole other set of issues to think about with the pipeline coming through and being placed on their land. So that's something that we spend a lot of time on. We have a person on staff, Mr. Dale Arnold, who does nothing but pretty much hits the road, talks to Farm Bureau members and landowners about the important things that they need to think about when that type of development's happening in their backyard.
Well, I think Dale's been doing that for 15 or 20 years, having meetings, and back in the day, I've attended some of those meetings, but that's an ongoing thing that farmers need to be aware of. If farmers have some questions about some of that, should they go to their local attorney, or what's the best way for them to find out about more information?
Well, there's definitely a number of avenues. I would encourage them to become Farm Bureau members and be able to tap into that great resource that Mr. Arnold is for us. Certainly on Ohio Farm Bureau's website, ofbf.org, we have some resources designated to that. We've got actually a lawyer and a list of lawyers who we direct farmers to be able to pick from, and they've kind of gone through a little bit of a vetting process, so that we're saying this group of lawyers has the expertise to be able to help you through these specific sets of issues when you're talking about energy development. So all of those resources is something that our organization are trying to provide to landowners across the state.
So it's wise for that farmer, when he first hears or first starts talking about something like that, don't sign on the dotted line until he has all the information.
Yeah, that's one of Dale's big things is, folks, go seek out some expertise and advice before you sign anything, because that's critically important. Once you've signed on the line, you're locked in.
Well, Brandon Kern has been our guest, the guru with Farm Bureau of all things energy. I guess I could say it that way. It's easier to say than your title.
And a few other things, yes, and a few other things.
Okay, Brandon Kern has been our guest. Thanks for being with us.
All right, thanks very much.
And stay with us, back with more right after this.